When you hear the word sales, I feel like there is an almost a universal physical reaction to it. Like if you are listening to this deep dive right now, just pay attention to your body for a second.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Right. There's likely this tightening in your chest, maybe a slight cringe, and, well, instantly, this very specific, almost cinematic image probably pops into your head.
Let me guess. It's the guy in the poorly fitted plaid suit.
Exactly. The guy standing on a used car lot just flashing this completely predatory, overly caffeinated smile.
Yep, the one trying to pressure you into buying something you, definitely don't need and absolutely cannot afford.
100%. And it's a deeply ingrained cultural stereotype, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, we've all absorbed it, but the tragedy there is that it's a stereotype that causes just a massive amount of anxiety for anyone who actually has to sell their own services to survive in today's economy.
Which is so many people right now. And that anxiety, that fear of being that guy is exactly what we are dismantling today. Welcome in, everyone.
Glad to be here.
So today we are pulling from Chapter 9 of the guide, Hustle Smarter, Not Harder. And the chapter is aptly titled, Selling Without Feeling Slimy.
Which is just a great title, honestly.
It really is. Our mission today is to help you, whether you're a freelance graphic designer, a creative consultant, or just someone trying to get a side hustle off the ground. We want to help you take that dreaded sales pitch and transform it into a comfortable, high-converting conversation.
And the source text actually provides this phenomenal foundation to start dismantling that pushy car salesman stereotype right out of the gate.
Right. There's that one quote that sets the whole tone.
Yes. The core quote in this chapter states, "The best salespeople don't sell, they diagnose, educate, and help the right people make the right decision."
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is a massive paradigm shift.
It completely flips the script.
It does. The text explicitly tells us to stop thinking of a sales call as, an opportunity to ask for money. We have to actively remove that phrase from our brains.
And all the desperation attached to it, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, we need to start thinking of it as a process of qualifying for fit. Like you aren't begging a prospect to open their wallet.
Right. You are simply figuring out if the skills you possess actually align with the specific problem they're suffering from.
So what's fascinating here is the psychological mechanism happening underneath that shift. Because think about what happens when you enter a conversation with the internal goal of asking for money.
Oh, your ego is entirely on the line.
Completely. You are seeking validation for your worth. So when a prospect inevitably says no, or they push back,
it doesn't just feel like a business decision.
No, it feels like a profound personal rejection. Like it physically hurts. You internalize it and feel like you just aren't good enough.
Precisely. But when you reframe your objective to simply finding a mutually beneficial match, when you're just qualifying for fit, the emotional stakes completely change.
Because it's not about you anymore.
Exactly. A no is no longer a painful rejection of your soul. It's simply valuable data. It's just, objective information confirming that this specific pairing of your services and their current needs wasn't the right fit at this moment in time.
That reframing instantly takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm just a diagnostician trying to read the x-rays, I don't get offended if the patient's arm isn't broken.
Right. You don't take it personally.
I just say, hey, good news, you don't need a cast. And paradoxically, I imagine that when you aren't radiating that desperate, high-pressure anxiety on a call, your conversion rates actually go up.
They absolutely do. When you detach your ego from the outcome, your questions become sharper, your whole demeanor becomes calmer.
Which people can definitely feel.
Oh, prospects have incredibly attuned radar for desperation.
Right.
When they sense that you are genuinely trying to help them figure out their problem, rather than just extracting money from them to pay your rent, their defensive walls come down.
Makes sense. So if we connect this to the practical reality of being on a call, once you have that mindset locked in, how do you actually conduct the conversation?
Right. How do you actually do it?
Because the text outlines a structured conversational framework. And what I really appreciate about it is its versatility. Whether you're on a Zoom discovery call or exchanging voice notes in your DMs or just sitting across from someone at a coffee shop, the progression remains exactly the same.
And it begins before you ever discuss business at all. The first phase of any successful interaction is building rapport.
But the text is very clear to distinguish this from, idle small talk,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. Asking, how's the weather where you are, doesn't actually accomplish anything. The goal here is what the author calls trust calibration.
Trust calibration. I like that. So You want to ask how they found you, but more importantly, you need to note something specific from their profile or maybe their recent content that you genuinely found interesting.
Right. You are establishing a real human-to-human connection. You're signaling to their subconscious lizard brain that you see them as a three-dimensional person.
Not just a lead in a CRM system.
Exactly. Because the fundamental truth of human behavior is that people prefer to buy from people they like and trust.
So if you skip this trust calibration and jump straight into your services,
You immediately position yourself as a transactional vendor rather than a collaborative partner.
that makes a lot of sense. You really have to lower the drawbridge before you can cross the moat.
That's a great way to put it.
And once that baseline of trust is established, the conversation naturally transitions into the discovery phase. And from what I'm reading, this is arguably the most critical stretch of the entire interaction.
I would say it is the most critical, without a doubt.
Because your goal here isn't to talk about yourself at all. It's to understand their current reality, the future they want to achieve, and the gap standing between those 2 points.
This is where you put on the doctor's coat. The text actually provides a specific sequence of golden questions to uncover that gap.
Let's go through those.
Yeah, looking at the list here, the progression is brilliant. First, you ask, what's the biggest challenge you're currently dealing with in this area?
A great open-ended start.
Right. And once they answer that, you dig into the history. You ask, how long has this been a problem? Then you look at their past attempts to fix it. What have you already tried?
Okay, I want to pause on that one because asking what they've already tried is such a strategic move.
It really is. Why do you think so?
Well, it tells you exactly what they don't want to hear from you. Like if they say they tried hiring an agency and hated the lack of communication, you immediately know that your communication style is going to be your strongest selling point.
Exactly. It's incredibly illuminating. Then the questions shift from the past to the future. You ask, what would solving this mean for you, practically and personally?
Wow. Personally is a deep word there.
It gets to the emotional core. And finally, you ask, what does success look like to you in 90 days?
Notice what is conspicuously absent from those questions.
Yep. Zero mention of your services.
You aren't pitching your own brilliance at all. You are entirely focused on their pain and their desired destination. But this raises a crucial point about execution.
Which is?
While the client is pouring their heart out answering these deep diagnostic questions, what should the freelancer actually be doing?
Oh, the source material gives a very explicit, non-negotiable instruction here. You must listen far more than you speak.
Hard for some of us, but yes.
Very hard. And you must take meticulous notes. But not just summarizing their points, you have to capture their exact phrasing.
Why the exact phrasing?
Because the client's exact words, their specific articulation of their own pain points are going to become the foundation of everything you do next.
Okay, so you're basically gathering the exact ingredients you need to bake their specific cake.
I love that analogy. Like, if they say, I am drowning in administrative busy work, you don't write down client needs time management.
No, absolutely.
You write down drowning in administrative busy work because those are the magic words that will resonate with them later.
Exactly. And once you have those ingredients scribbled down, the conversation naturally pivots from them sharing to you responding.
This is the third stage, right? The matching phase.
Yes. And notice the terminology there. It's a match, not a pitch.
You are bridging the gap between what they just confessed to you and what you can provide.
And the text offers a very clean psychological formula for this. You literally say, based on what you've told me, and you insert their specific challenge using their exact words.
Right.
Then you say, what I recommend is, and you state your service because, and you tie it directly to a reason they just gave you during discovery. And you finish by stating the specific result it produces. So it sounds something like, based on you telling me you are drowning in administrative busy work, I'd recommend my monthly virtual assistant package because you mentioned you need at least 10 hours back a week just to focus on product development.
Perfect.
This typically produces a completely cleared inbox and a streamlined calendar by week 2.
Yes. You are holding up a mirror to them. By using their language and referencing their specific situation, you're showing exactly how your solution is the custom bridge across the gap they just described.
So you aren't offering a generic menu of services, you're offering a targeted prescription.
Exactly.
Okay, wait, I have to push back here for a second.
Oh, go for it.
I just want to make sure I'm reading the pacing of this correctly. We just spent a significant amount of time on rapport, a massive chunk of time letting them talk during discovery, and another solid window, carefully matching their needs to our services.
Right, we are deep into the call by this point.
Yeah, but the text suggests that the actual offer phase stage 4, where you lay out the logistics, and the price should only take about 2 minutes.
That's right, just 2 minutes.
Isn't the actual presentation of the offer supposed to be the main event? Like, shouldn't we be spending 10 minutes outlining every single deliverable, feature, and bonus we provide to justify the cost?
It is entirely counterintuitive, I know, but the text argues the exact opposite. What's fascinating here is that if the preceding phases, the trust calibration, the deep diagnostic discovery, and the mirrored matching are done correctly, the offer does not need a hard sell.
Interesting.
It doesn't require a 10-minute theatrical monologue outlining every feature. The heavy psychological lifting is already done.
Because the client already feels understood.
Exactly. The offer phase is literally just a brief logistical presentation of clear scope, timeline, price, and next step.
And you have to do it with zero apologies, zero hedging, and zero upward inflection in your voice.
That is the key. You don't use weak language. You don't say, well, usually my rate for something like this is sort of around.
Ugh, I cringe just hearing that.
Right, no. You say, my rate for this scoop of work is this exact price. That includes these specific deliverables. To get started, I require a deposit of this amount and a signed agreement. I can have that paperwork to you by 5 o'clock today if you'd like to proceed.
It is entirely matter of fact. That level of confidence is so refreshing. It cuts right through the murky, awkward tension that usually surrounds money.
And that brings us to the final hurdle of the conversation, stage 5, the close.
Right. You've laid out the price and the next steps. Now you just ask one direct question. Does this feel like the right fit for you?
And then,
And I guarantee this is the hardest instruction for anyone listening, you go completely quiet. You shut your mouth.
that silence is absolutely crucial. And honestly, it is where most untrained salespeople break.
Because nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. Our instinct when things get quiet is to start rambling, to start justifying the price. Or worse, to immediately offer a discount before the client has even responded.
If you're listening right now, you know exactly how deafening that silence can feel on a Zoom call. I mean, it feels like an absolute eternity.
It really does, but you have to hold it. If they break the silence with a yes, fantastic. You confirm the next steps immediately. But if they hesitate or say they aren't sure, you do not push.
Right. The text explicitly warns against trying to bulldoze them into a yes.
You simply pivot to seeking to understand their hesitation. As the guide points out, pressuring someone into agreeing today guarantees they will become a resentful, difficult client tomorrow.
Let's be real for a moment, though. In the real world, outside of textbook scenarios, clients don't always just nod and say a magical, unprompted yes.
Oh, definitely not.
Roadblocks happen, budgets are tight, people get nervous about committing. So how do we handle those moments without getting defensive or feeling like we are back on that used car lot?
The text offers a brilliant philosophical reframe here. Objections are not obstacles, and they are definitely not personal attacks. They're simply requests for more information or clarity.
It's such a vital shift in perspective. When a prospect objects, they are just trying to solve a puzzle in their own head.
Yeah.
They're communicating that they're missing a piece.
The text actually breaks down the 4 most common objections, the ones you will hear over and over again, and provides the exact professional mechanisms to handle them.
Let's explore those. Starting with the absolute classic that everyone dreads hearing, your price is too high.
The amateur move here is to instantly get defensive or to just immediately slash your price.
Which hurts your margins and your dignity.
Exactly. Instead, you need to analyze the context of the statement. The text advises responding calmly with a clarifying question. You say, I completely understand. Can I ask, too high relative to what?
Wow, that is such a powerful pivot. Relative to what? It completely changes the dynamic from a confrontation to a collaboration.
Yes. You are sitting on the same side of the table now, trying to figure out their baseline. You need to know if they are comparing your price to a cheaper competitor, to their own internal budget constraints, or, to the value they expect to receive.
Right. And if they admit it's simply a budget issue, you don't discount your hourly rate. You offer a reduced scope of work that fits their budget.
You maintain your value. And if they are questioning the value, you calmly restate the return on investment you discussed during discovery. By asking relative to what, you uncover the actual root of the problem.
Okay, but what about the silent killer? The client who doesn't say no and doesn't complain about price, but just gives you that vague, deflating, I need to think about it.
Ah, yes.
I always think of this objection like a check engine light on a car dashboard. A check engine light doesn't tell you exactly what's wrong. It doesn't say your catalytic converter is busted.
Nope, just a scary orange glow.
Right. It just tells you that there is an unvoiced concern somewhere under the hood.
That is a phenomenal analogy. And a good mechanic doesn't just ignore the light and hope the car keeps driving.
Exactly.
The text points out that I need to think about it is almost always polite code for I have a specific concern that I am too uncomfortable to voice right now. So your job is to gently hand them the diagnostic tool.
How do you do that?
You reply, of course, this is a big decision. What specific aspect would you like to think through? I want to make sure you have everything you need to make a good choice.
You are giving them permission to voice their fears. I love that.
It works wonders.
They may have the bureaucratic roadblock. I love this, but I need to talk to my partner, or I need to get approval from my boss.
This is an issue of internal friction. They are convinced, but now they have to go act as your salesperson to a shadow committee of stakeholders who weren't even on the call.
Which usually goes terribly.
Almost always. The strategy here is to arm your champion. You respond, completely understand. Would it be helpful if I put together a brief summary document you could share with them? I'll outline the exact scope, the result we're targeting, and the investment.
That removes the friction completely. You are doing the heavy lifting for them, ensuring your value is communicated correctly to the people holding the purse strings.
You are basically giving them a cheat sheet for their internal meeting.
So smart. And finally, we have the skeptical client. The one who says, I tried hiring someone for this exact thing last year, and it was a total disaster. It didn't work.
They've been burned.
Right. How do we handle that?
This requires an empathy-first approach. You have to validate their frustration before you try to solve it. You say, I am so sorry that happened. That is incredibly frustrating. Can you tell me more about what you tried and where it specifically fell short?
So you're digging into the trauma a bit.
Yeah, because your goal is to genuinely understand if your process is fundamentally different in the ways that matter to them, but more importantly, you are exploring if you might not be the right fit either.
And this is where honesty builds enormous trust. Like, if you listen to their horror story and realize, actually, my process is pretty similar, I don't think I can help you either. Saying so out loud makes you the most credible, trustworthy person they've spoken to all month.
Absolutely. You are proving that you care more about their success than your own commission.
Okay, so let's say the conversation went beautifully. You navigated the objections, you matched their needs, they're excited. The call ends.
The fun part.
Right. But how do we seal the deal in writing without sending over, like, a 20-page legalese-filled document that completely kills all that momentum?
The guide is adamant that a highly converting proposal isn't a long document, it's a precise one. It outlines a very streamlined 5-section structure designed to maintain that momentum.
What's the first section?
It starts with a section defining the problem. And crucially, just like we discussed earlier, this section must be written using their exact words captured during the discovery call.
Oh, that makes sense. Opening by restating their situation in their own vernacular proves you actually listened.
It creates instant alignment. As they read it, their brain is literally saying, yes, exactly, this person gets it.
Following that is the approach section, right? And this is where so many talented creatives fail.
Yes. The text emphasizes that your approach must focus on outcomes, not activities.
I always think of it like buying a plane ticket. When you buy a flight to Hawaii, you are buying the beach. You are buying the sunset, the relaxation, the métis.
You definitely aren't buying the jet fuel.
No. You aren't buying the pilot's pre-flight checklist or the baggage handling system. Nobody cares about the logistics of the flight. They care about the destination.
That is so true.
And in a proposal, clients don't want to buy your 4 rounds of wireframe revisions or your keyword density research. Those are activities. They want to buy the beach.
That's exactly right. You don't write, I will write 4 blog posts. You write, I will create 4 SEO-optimized articles designed to generate qualified inbound traffic and capture leads. You sell the destination.
And from there, it moves into the logistics.
Yep. Sections 3 and 4 are the investment and the timeline and next steps. This needs unambiguous pricing, a clear scope of what is and isn't included, explicit payment terms, and a crystal clear call to action.
Something like, to initiate the project, please sign the attached agreement and submit the 50% deposit.
Exactly. No ambiguity, no guessing what they're supposed to do next. And finally, section 5, you close the document out with a tiny bit of social proof.
Like a testimonial.
Yeah, maybe just a 2-sentence testimonial from a past client who faced a similar challenge, and then you hit send.
Now, if you're listening to this, you might think the work is done. You hit send, you wait for the money. But here is where we enter the graveyard of lost freelance projects.
It really is a graveyard.
Because the text points out a tragic reality. Most deals are not lost because your price was too high, and they aren't lost because someone else was better. They are lost simply because of a lack of follow-up.
It is the ultimate self-sabotage. People are so terrified of being perceived as annoying or desperate that they send the proposal and then just sit in silence. They just let the lead wither and die in an overflowing inbox.
But the guide provides a highly professional, psychologically sound follow-up cadence that removes that anxiety entirely. Let's walk through that timeline because it is pure gold.
It really is.
It starts 24 hours after sending the proposal with a simple check-in. Just a quick, polite message, checking to make sure you received the proposal okay. Happy to jump on a quick call if any questions popped up. It's totally low stakes.
But if you hear nothing, the dynamic changes at the 72-hour mark. This is where you transition from a vendor waiting for a paycheck to a consultant adding value.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
You don't send a message asking, "Did you sign it yet?" Instead, you send a quick note saying, "While you're reviewing the proposal, I saw this article or this resource and thought it might be relevant to that challenge we discussed."
Think about what that does psychologically. It proves to the client that you are actually thinking about their specific business problem while you are off the clock. You aren't just chasing a signature. You are invested in their success.
It elevates your status immediately. Now, if another 4 days pass in silence, so we are now a full 7 days out from the proposal, you transition to a direct follow-up. But you do it by offering it out.
What does that sound like?
You say, "Following up on the proposal, would love to know where your head is at. I'm happy to adjust the scope if needed, or we can close the loop for now if the timing just isn't right."
Giving them that easy out is a masterclass in reverse psychology. By actively removing the pressure and giving them permission to say no, they suddenly feel safe to reply.
Because half the time they're just embarrassed because they got busy and forgot to read it.
Exactly. And finally, if you hit 14 days with absolute silence, the professional walkaway. Last follow-up from me. If now isn't the right time, no problem at all. I'd love to reconnect when it is. Wishing you well with the project.
And then, crucially, you actually stop. You preserve your dignity and your energy.
And this entire framework isn't just theory. The text backs it up with a really compelling case study.
Yes, the story of Ngozi, the freelance web designer.
Right. Before learning this process, she was converting about 1 in 10 of her discovery calls.
Yeah.
Because she was terrified of selling, she was rushing straight to the pitch, skipping the deep discovery, and sending out generic proposals.
And the numbers once she changed her approach are staggering. By adopting this exact framework, slowing down, diagnosing the pain, matching their exact words, and implementing that strict follow-up cadence, her conversion rate jumped from 1 in 10 to 4 in 10 within 60 days.
That is massive.
Not only that, her average project value increased by 40% because she finally understood what her clients actually valued, and her ghosting rate plummeted by 65% because she was surfacing objections on the call instead of letting them fester in silence.
And she was selling to the exact same market with the exact same skills. The only thing that changed was the structure of her conversation.
Which brings us to a major myth that the guide takes the time to thoroughly dismantle. It is a myth that runs rampant in creative communities. The idea that good work sells itself. If your portfolio is talented enough, you don't need to sell.
It is such a comforting lie to tell yourself when you are afraid of getting on a sales call. But the reality outlined in the text is much harsher. Good work retains clients. It keeps them coming back. But sales is what attracts them in the first place.
Exactly.
A profoundly talented creative with zero sales process will always struggle to earn a living compared to a just good enough creative who can confidently sit down and diagnose a client's problem. Sales is not an innate personality trait. It is a trainable skill.
And like any skill, it requires reps. The text actually assigns the reader direct homework. It tells you to write down those golden discovery questions, set up your phone, and practice asking them to the camera.
Wait, like record yourself?
Yes. alone in an empty room,
I did.
because careful, awkward practice in private is infinitely better than awkward execution in front of a paying prospect. The sale happens in the conversation, so you have to train for the conversation.
You have to build the muscle memory before you get on the field. I love that.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought that takes everything we've just discussed and applies it far beyond your freelance business. The final quote from the chapter is, "Productivity is not about doing more. It's about doing the right things with full attention and ruthlessly eliminating everything else."
That's powerful.
It really connects deeply to this entire deep dive. By ruthlessly eliminating your old, anxious sales habits and giving your full attention to this honest 5-stage framework, you aren't actually doing more selling, you are finally doing the right kind of selling.
You leave the used car lot behind forever.
Exactly.
That is a profound way to look at it. Thank you so much for joining us and breaking this all down. Now, to everyone listening, your homework is clear. Go write down those 5 questions, turn on your camera, and start practicing. We'll see you next time.